Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very accomplished professional, a musician, a filmmaker from Gurgaon, India, Mr. Sanjay Talwar. Sanjay ji, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashutosh.
Mr. Talwar is a musician and a filmmaker. He's the managing trustee of the Immaculate Ideal Human Foundation, which is an NGO. He's also a lifelong practitioner of Sahaj Yoga meditation. Sanjay has remained closely connected with his mentor and guru, Her Holiness Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi. His debut film, Greh Lakshmi, The Awakening, received several awards, and his second Bollywood production, Mahalakshmi Path, The Evolution, in October 2023, has so far received approximately 78 national and international film awards. So Sanjay ji, let's talk first about your journey. If you can tell me in brief, and then we'll start talking about all the other topics.
Okay, my journey is roughly about 41 years ever since I met Her Holiness Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi. If you go 41 years back, I was a very shaky individual, always shown the door and not being able to speak properly, say my words properly, and express myself. I had this great shortcoming, and from that moment onwards, when there is an episode that happened in my life when she came and met me due to some family function, I found out that she is a person who can read you through and through. My first experience was when she caught hold of my issue of not being recognized and being shown the door always. She first held my hand and told me that you are made to do a very big task for me in this world. So first I had to know what she was up to. And then I realized that she was a very honored and revered mother of several people who were meditating, and this process of Sahaj Yoga that they were following. And she had started it in 1970, and I had met her when it was 1982. And in 84, after 2 years of having met her, I got revealed unto this whole concept. And then it was a journey which went very smoothly because I started to enhance my character, became a much more confident, much more happy, much more satisfied. And I was able to go through life very smoothly and get rid of all my issues. And that is my journey of empowerment. And I would say a lot of encouragement from her, her love. And we stayed connected with each other for about 25, 30 years. Wow. And that is where today I land up with all these Shaktis and powers that she has empowered me to create music and movies, which are all before you. And that has been my journey of success.
What an amazing journey. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you.
So let's talk now about Her Holiness. What was Her Holiness's vision for Sahaj Yoga, and how do you see it being fulfilled today?
Well, when I met her, I was so engrossed in sorting out my own problems, and I was finding them getting sorted out. And I saw in her a mother, basically not who would not say who she was, but what she would give me as an experience. And her teachings were experiential. So what she was asking us to do was to surrender our egos, because we all manage our lives thinking that we do everything. But she said there is a higher power, and that you need to connect with that power. So then the questions within me as a kid always used to be, who am I? Why am I born on this earth? What is the purpose of my life? What am I supposed to do? What are my responsibilities? And these questions started getting answered as I started this meditation, which she led me on to. And Sahaj Yoga is about the awakening of the Kundalini, first step. So the Kundalini, what is a Kundalini? I guess it's all there in the scriptures that people have read about it.
But for our viewers and listeners, do tell us.
Okay, so put it in a nutshell, it's an energy that is born with you when you came on this earth. It carries with it all the recordings of your past births and lives, and it is embedded um, uh, inside your triangular bone, where it is in a sleeping state. And what mother said was that this is born in the mother's womb when the child is about 2.5 months. And when the child grows and comes out of the mother's womb, and he starts to, discover life as a small child, and then peers bring in all the ideas of what life is about. That time, Shri Mataji said that you need to get this Kundalini awakened. And this can be awakened only by the call of a higher spirit or a guru or a soul. And she acted as a catalyst to that. And she said that when I got my realization, which was opening of the seventh chakra called the Sahasrara, she was able to connect with an all-pervading power which is around us, which we are not connected with. So she said that Sahaj Yoga is about connecting your Kundalini power with the all-pervading power of God's love that has created the universe. And I said, how does it happen? She says that happens with your pure desire. So all you have to do is basically you have to be pleasantly placed. You should not think of anything that's gone wrong with you or anything that you've done wrong. You just surrender to the higher power. You express that desire that you want your Kundalini to rise, and automatically that energy rises due to her being in front. And we today also use her photograph for the trigger to happen. And once that happens, it pierces through all your energy centers called chakras. So it sits on an energy center, which is called the Muladhara, which is the root chakra. And above that, on the triangular bone, the Kundalini sleeps. So the minute you express a pure desire that your Kundalini should rise, means you want to know the truth about yourself, who you are, then automatically the Kundalini pierces through the above 6 chakras, which are represented in our medical science as plexuses.
Yeah.
And I'm not going into the detail. Once you want to know, I will again express that to you later. But as it pierces through all the chakras, it enlightens the chakras. It makes them start functioning because they are made of the 5 elements around us. And these chakras, it enlightens, it opens up. And at the heart level, when you can feel the love and the compassion coming into your heart, it all takes it right into your brain, which is the optic chiasma on the 6th chakra, the Ajna chakra. The minute that door opens, then it rises up to the Sahasrara, which is the limbic area, where we have all the 33,000 crore nas nadiyan hai hamari. And on that, it just opens up, it blossoms like a flower, and then it connects with the all-pervading power. And what happens is that power then starts running into your central nervous system, into your 3 nadis, the left, the right, and the center, and into your chakras and into your central nervous system.
Wow.
And you feel the cool breeze of that energy coming in. But that only happens if you have surrendered your ego and you have surrendered to a higher power, and that you are innocent from the root chakra and you are bhola from the heart chakra, like the Shiva, and then the seat of the Sada Shiva, which lies on your Sahasrara, on your limbic area, that opens up and it absorbs all the energy and it empowers you. And that process is what is Sahaj Yoga about. But the main part is that you become thoughtless at one point when your Kundalini reaches the Ajna chakra. And at that thoughtlessness, everything comes into a balance. So your whole life has to come to a balance. Then only you get into meditation. And that is the true sense of meditation that I found very useful to me when I started doing it, that all these powers started nurturing my chakras and they started opening up, and I started feeling better. My health became better. My mental condition became better. My surroundings became better. I became positive, and I was able to narrate positivity to the outer world. And then you can raise Kundalini of other people, and you can make life a better place, the world a better place to live in.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I had to share,
No,
share this.
What a great response, and you explained it so beautifully. Thank you. My next question is, how does the concept of self-realization, uh, you know, appear in Sahaj Yoga, and how can one achieve this?
Okay. So as I had said that when you express a desire that you want to know the truth, so what is the truth? The truth is an unknown area where you have no knowledge about why were you born, what was the purpose of your life, what have you come here to do, and how do you manage to lead a happy, healthy, and a positive life? This is all what man wants.
Correct.
And Sahaj Yoga provides you that through self-realization. Means yourself, which is your Atma, which resides in the heart, it absorbs the love of the divine and it takes it to the brain. It enlightens the brain. Normally, the brain acts through its attention and it directs the attention what to do, and you do it according to the brain. Right. But when the Atma comes into the brain, it enlightens it, it makes you like a Shiv Tattva awakens within your in your limbic area. And when that happens, that is the state of self-realization. Okay. Because at that state, the empowerment of that energy on your brain starts to act, and auto reactions start coming out of your desires. So you have pure desires, and whatever desire you express, it starts to manifest. And all the chakras, they get integrated in this process when you meditate. And the self-realization is a continuous process that starts to develop, and you become deeper and deeper into a self-realized state till you actually achieve a state called God realization, which is the next step.
Well said. Thank you. And Sanjay ji, in a world full of stress and turmoil, how does Sahaj Yoga help individuals find inner peace and balance?
Yes, you've already given the answer. So Sahaj Yoga is like it's like a pendulum that exists in a human being. Sahaj Yoga actually puts your pendulum into the center. So left is your past, right is your future, and the present is your center. So when the Kundalini awakens and it rises through the central path, which is the Sushumna Nadi or the Brahma Nadi, it not only brings all your chakras into balance, all the angularities of the left side and the right side. Right-sidedness, is overactivity, left-sidedness is underactivity, and which they say tamasic gun and rajasic gun, and here it is the sattvic gun. That gets enlightened, and as you meditate, as you do Sahaj Yoga meditation, all the chakras come into a state of balance. And in that state of balance, you are able to take right decisions. You are able to absorb knowledge. You are able to recognize the true nature of what is around us. Right now, it's all tainted with our left and right problems. But the minute you're in the center, you're able to see. You become a witness. And at that witness state, you can immediately know what is the answer to a problem. And I think that is the biggest thing that we need, because we try to search for gurus for answers to our problems. And the problems can be huge. They can be, health issues. They can be mental issues. They can be financial issues. They can be relationship issues. And they can be so many issues. You are empowered with Sahaj Yoga, with self-realization to solve all the problems of your life.
Amazing. And, Sanjay ji, I don't know much about Sahaj Yoga, but I was reading a little bit. And I was fascinated to see that Sahaj Yoga often speaks about a balance between spirituality and science. Can you elaborate on this balance and its importance?
So, as I had already explained to you, the process, what I explained to you is nothing new. It is part of our scriptures, but it has been put in a very simple way by Her Holiness. So what she said was, it's very scientific. So the person who actually has to do this meditation or should do this meditation has to be of scientific mind. Means he has to be a probing mind. He should probe why this happens, what happens, what actually happens inside. And there she has described it beautifully, very scientifically, that we have these plexuses on our central nervous system. It starts with the root chakra, and then it comes to the second is the solar plexus. And then, you come to many plexuses, the cardiac plex, the thoracic plex, and then the optic chiasma, and then the limbic area. So these plexuses, they control
our body organs. So if anything goes wrong with the body organs, we give medicines to correct it. But medicines have side effects.
Right.
But now if you were to take your Kundalini onto that chakra, meditate, give vibrations to that chakra, scientifically it has been proved, and it has been even documented in universities across the world. I won't go into the details. You'll need to find out that science and spirituality, this is where it meets, is that these vibrations actually cure your chakras and you become all right. We have cases, medical history cases, where people have been, even the bypass surgeries had to be completely disbanded because the heart chakra suddenly opened.
Wow.
You know, even when the center heart opened, your antibodies became so strong that even viruses got dispelled. And we had these cases in COVID times where many people survived the worst of COVID by just doing meditation and giving vibrations to the heart chakra. Similarly, we have had so many cases of cancer being cured, and the throat. You know, in my case, I became a singer because my Vishuddhi, my thoracic chakra opened, and I was able to relate. You know, you become a responsible human being. That's your responsibility, which lies in this chakra. And you are able to cater to an audience, and you can reach out and you can become very popular. You know, I was, you know, from my childhood thrown away and now becoming a popular human being. What a transformation. So I don't know if I've answered directly, but
No,
this
you have.
science
You
of
have.
Sahaj Yoga.
You
And
have.
then the second science, I think I explained in a small video I had shared with you some time ago, that our heart has 7 auras, which are reflected as 7 part of our 7 chakras. And our spirit, which is in our heart, is always watching those chakras. Now, when Sahaj Yoga happens, the Kundalini, it pierces through each and every chakra. It starts giving it energy, which is supposed to put the chakras into balance. At that time, the chakras begin to integrate with each other, and they have their pithas in the brain. Now, we need to explain this more scientifically, but there's not much time. But what I can say is that the brain has pithas, has those energy points where the chakras are reflected. So when they become integrated, at that time, the light of the spirit enters the brain, and the spirit controls the brain. So now what happens is that you first enter through realization to the 4th dimension. And when the spirit enters the brain, you enter the 5th dimension, which science has not yet discovered. So spirituality has an edge over science since ages and even till now. I'm sure one day science will discover that this 5th dimension, when it works, you can create a living thing out of the dead. You know, today we work with the dead. We make atom bombs and we explode each other. But a living thing, you touch with your vibrations, it gets vibrated. And the minute it gets vibrated, it only acts through your divine attention. So you become such an empowered human being that you can define what science needs to discover tomorrow. That is, I think, the gelling of the two.
So now I want to move to your other avatar as a musician and a filmmaker. And my first question is, how has Sahaj Yoga helped you as a musician and a filmmaker?
Wonderful. This is my life story, actually. I'm full of it, and I could talk volumes on it, but I'll just try to sum it up in few sentences. When I started to practice Sahaj Yoga, the first thing I noticed, and she had predicted that you are made to be a writer, a composer, and a singer. At that time, I used to be a bathroom singer, and my voice wasn't great. So I used to wonder, what is she saying? So she was predicting something. But then what happened when I started to practice Sahaj Yoga and I started to accompany her in her sojourns all over the world, where she was giving this self-realization to all. You know, she has given self-realization in over 180 countries. People are practicing this. But I traveled with her to at least 25, 30 such countries over a period of 20 years. And in that process, I found my second chakra, which is called the Swadhisthana chakra. This is controlled by the power of the Brahma and Saraswati. And Saraswati, you know, is the seat of music.
Correct.
So that is the first time I was able to write, compose, and start singing. And it starts reflecting through my Vishuddhi chakra in the form of a very soulful, a very melodious voice. I started to discover this while I was traveling with her and meditating. And she would give me the opportunity that, okay, I'm going to talk to this public audience about Sahaj Yoga. Why don't you deliver a one bhajan or a one own composition of yours? Because I've been spending time with her, so I was writing on what she was saying. So it all came as a poetry, a prose, and a composition of the heart. And she said, in the West, people are so agitated with life, and they are so right-sided. They've got hot livers. But the minute you sing bhajans, you bring that passion, that compassion of love into their hearts. They suddenly go into balance, and I find it easy to raise their kundalini.
Amazing.
So I became like a support system for her when I was traveling, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful combination of the mother and the son. I would say the Guru Ma and the Shishya to work together and spread her word of self-realization across the world. So that gave me a chance to become a musician. And of course, I had come out with over 21 albums in the 20 years that I was with her. And there are these things that I have written that I have never even thought of. I could not dream that I came up with some kind of a poetry which I couldn't understand. Once I got up 2 in the morning and I was writing Urdu, and I didn't know Urdu at all. So I had to go to a scholar, and he got up and he said, hey, this seems to be some great scholar. Whom are you quoting? I said, sorry, sir, I wrote this myself when I woke up early morning. So this Swadhisthana chakra gives you that divine knowledge which flows through you because you allow yourself to become an instrument of the divine. And once you become that, then there is no stopping. Even filmmaking came to me like nothing. I'm a chemical engineer, and I have zero idea about filming. But my meditation led me to open all the doors that led me to make a film. I had a pure desire. I need to make a film and spread Sahaj Yoga through it. And the results are before you. It's a long learning that I had in the process of how things started to happen. They were amazing. I would call them close to miracle experiences I had while making both my films.
Amazing, amazing. And that's your response is a good segue to my next question. Share with me the inspiration and creative process behind your debut film, Grahalakshmi, The Awakening.
Yes, this again, it's part of my life. Whatever I say is my experience. So I was overwhelmed by my own mother. She took charge of our family so beautifully. She was taking all the brunt of everybody. All mothers do that in our house.
Yeah.
And I was enamored by the way she was control everything and manage everything. I had so many questions, and she was there like my guru, helping me. First thing she did was she was learning classical music. And as a kid, she used to put me in a cradle next to her and learn her classical. I think from somewhere, music got into my system. And Mother Shri Mataji helped me to flourish it through my Swadhisthana chakra. But then again, I come back to the main question is that my mother was that grand Grahalakshmi. Who's the Grahalakshmi who binds the home together, who keeps the home together. And she takes all the brunts, but she makes sure relationships are maintained. Everybody stays healthy and happy, and everybody gets their food on time, and home is managed beautifully. Now, this Indian system of marriage and a lady controlling her home, that Shri Mataji always encouraged. She would say that you need to have a married life, and you need to have a soul partner who is your Grahalakshmi. And the man is like the Shiva Tattva, who's the observer, but she is the action in the house. And she contains everything. So when I came up with the concept of this movie, Grahalakshmi, I was lucky that I got a wife who was, mother told me she's a great seeker and a great meditator. And she is going to be one of the best experiences of Grahalakshmi in your life. So when I noticed as I grew up, my wife, the way she was, I could not think of a better subject than making a film called Grahalakshmi, The Awakening, because everything revolves around our Nabhi. And the Grahalakshmi Tattva is in the center of our Nabhi. It's like the Vishnu and the Lakshmi. So Vishnu controls our evolution, process of evolution within, and Lakshmi binds
Mm.
all the dharmas within us.
Amazing.
So I tried to show that in my film by making, some of these actors, these housewives, manage things for their husbands and manage the issues that they were. But the first thing they had to manage was they had to surrender themselves to the higher power. And at that time, they became beautiful Graha Lakshmis and they controlled the houses, became very happy.
Wow.
And that is how I was able to communicate that thought.
Amazing. So now let's talk about your second film, which is Mahalakshmi Path, The Evolution.
Yeah, Mahalakshmi is actually evolution of the Graha Lakshmi principle. So Graha Lakshmi basically have I shown you as a character, as a wife, as a mother, but eventually it turns out to be a principle within. Once it is established, once you've understood the respectfulness of a feminine power in your life, which is in your mothers, your sisters, your wives, and all the women around you, they need to be respected. First point. And second point, I felt our film industry had everything doing the opposite. Now, I don't want to go into the opposites, but the women are treated as objects of sex and lust and too much murder mysteries around them. And they are not treated in a manner that we need to treat our women in our lives. So I thought I'll use cinema as a subject to bring in the concept of the Mahalakshmi Path. Now, that is the path of evolution. So once we recognize our Graha Lakshmis, then we can show how the Graha Lakshmis start to change the lives of their paramours, of their neighbors, of their family members. They get into problems, but they know how to solve the problems. And this process of solving problems in homes is actually leading you to evolution. You are all evolving as a family, as a unit, to understand that there is a higher power that you need to do, and that is meditate through Sahaj Yoga. So idea being that I brought the concept of Sahaj Yoga by putting the Graha Lakshmi into the phase of Mahalakshmi Path, the path of evolution, which is the central path. So Mahalakshmi refers to the central path, which is also known as the Sushumna Nadi. So in our Indian spiritual jargon, we have the Mahakali on the left, the Mahasaraswati on the right, and the Mahalakshmi on the center, which is called the path of evolution.
Amazing, amazing. Time for one more question, Sanjay. I think what an amazing conversation so far. My last question to you, how do you balance your creative expression as a musician and filmmaker with your own incredible spiritual journey?
Yes. So music, it doesn't involve the brain. It involves the heart.
Correct.
And it involves the spirit of the heart. So when I learned what Sahaj Yoga was, that the spirit has to come to the brain, my first experience in Sahaj Yoga was to become a musician. And this has stayed with me all my life. Of course, I was very fond of film songs, and I did share with you a few of them. And I think I can bring soul into a song.
Correct.
Now, every song is soulful. Well, it is well rendered and well created. But when I am able to meditate and sing together, then it gives the soulfulness. It gives the vibrations.
Correct.
So when you can listen to the song, you go into a state of bliss, of vibrations, and which is what I'm trying to give to everybody through my music. And as far as my films are concerned, my personal life, as already reflected in my films, my meditative state also reflects in my films. And my creativity, which comes from my Swadhisthana chakra, is an ongoing process. As I meditate, I get more and more creative. And maybe the next subject I take up may be much more beautiful than what I am contemplating at this moment.
Amazing. And on that note, Sanjay, I just want to say thank you for speaking to me about your own incredible journey. Thank you for talking to me at such length about your journey with Her Holiness Sri Mataji Nirmala Devi. Thank you for talking to us about Sahaj Yoga and all the deep learnings you have. You clearly are a very, very knowledgeable person about meditation, the 7 chakras, and so many other things. Thank you also for speaking to me about both your movies, Graha Lakshmi, The Awakening, and Mahalakshmi Path, The Evolution. Thank you again. And thank you for sharing with me all your songs, and all the very best to you.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. Grand opportunity. I really value that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.